Well, joining me live from Washington, D.C. is Sabrina Siddiqui, a politics reporter with the Huffington Post. Sabrina, there's been much criticism of President Obama's spying review today. Many say he didn't go far enough. But let me ask you, was there anything new in the speech? Any surprises?
There weren't any major surprises, as you said. I think a lot of it was modest reform and proposals that would ultimately need approval from Congress. And of course, it remains unclear in an ever-divided Congress if they would be willing to authorize many of the changes that he suggested today. And, you know, a lot of this is repetition. He actually mentioned appointing before the FISA court a privacy advocate that would voice constitutional concerns on behalf of the people last August. That was one of the major announcements he had today. I think the most sweeping reform would be transferring the bulk phone collections out of the hands of the government and into a third-party private entity. And that's something that would face a very uphill battle in Congress. I really think that most lawmakers are not comfortable with the private sector being responsible for storing all of the phone data from millions of Americans. And also that doesn't get at the heart of the issue. The heart of the issue is that the data collection is taking place in the first place, not where it's being stored.
The U.S. says that these surveillance programs are all about national security and about stopping terrorist attacks post 9/11. But let me ask you, do most Americans accept that these spying programs are necessary?
Well, that's actually kind of interesting because you've seen a shift in views, public opinion, since Edward Snowden first made these revelations in June. Initially, most Americans actually said that they were comfortable with these programs in that if they were critical to national security. I think this country has been through a lot since 9/11. Of course, there was also the Boston Marathon bombing last April. So there is that threat. I think people here continue to feel that they are under attack, and certainly this administration has offered a very forceful defense in the name of national security for the NSA's activities. At the same time, maybe there was a shift around when it was revealed that the NSA was monitoring the communications of the German Chancellor, Angela Merkel. That was embarrassing in terms of our global standing. A lot of Americans didn't understand why the United States government would be spying on its allies. And certainly they were surprised that the president himself wasn't even aware of that. And that's where you kind of saw a lot of Americans think that the NSA is in fact taking things too far. Even if they say this is critical to counterterrorism, would you really have to take it that far?
So does all of this then vindicate Edward Snowden? Was he right in saying that the NSA and other spy agencies pretty much do what they want with limited or ineffective oversight?
Absolutely. This was a big vindication for Edward Snowden. And it's kind of interesting because in this speech, the president actually took a jab at Edward Snowden. He said he wasn't really going to dwell on his actions or his motivations. At the same time, he criticized the sensational way in which these revelations were made. And he said that that brought more heat than they did sort of thoughtful reflection and information really on why these programs are necessary. But then he kind of overlooked the fact that without Edward Snowden, he wouldn't be having this conversation in the first place. The speech that he was giving would not have existed. The proposals that he has suggested, that policy change wouldn't have come about. So this conversation is being had in the first place because of Edward Snowden. And without question, wherever Edward Snowden is, I'm pretty sure he was watching with a smile because he really is responsible for creating this dialogue. And of course, it remains to be seen what Congress will do. But even if they do take action, it will be because of Edward Snowden.
All right. Sabrina Siddiqui there in Washington, D.C. Thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.